Hello everyone. Hello. Hello everyone. Good evening. Hello. Hello. Good evening, guys. Welcome to Inbox Conflict. So today the session is regarding salary slip discussion, where we'll learn how we can calculate the CTC, gross salary, other components. What are the components? Is there any limitations and all? So we'll discuss here. And first of all, thank you everyone that you all joined us. And in the meantime, while we go through all this, the discussion will go on. And if you have any query, I would prefer if you can ask at the end, because we'll keep 15 minutes time at the end where you can ask your questions. And in the middle, if you have anything, you can jot it down. Also, after this session is over, I'll be mailing you one 2-3 things. It will be a file, a zip file, where some beneficial things will be given to you. It's totally free of cost. No cost is involved. Okay, so first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I am Avik, director of Inbox Consultancy, and I'm the director of HR as well. So I would like to have a brief intro from everyone. Like, if you can a brief tell me about something about yourself and what you currently do. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Okay. So let's continue then. Okay. So today we'll learn. So first will be CTC, gross, net. How we will calculate? Okay. Second will be what are the components in the salary slip, which are exactly in every organization is there, and which is required in every salary slip. Third one will learn what are the fixed or any threshold limitations been mentioned or there which every organization should follow. Fourth one will be the deductions, which happens in the salary slip. Fifth, we'll learn how will we calculate. Like we can see the deductions, this the PF, ESIC, LWF, PT. So how will we calculate? So this also we will learn, and later on we'll learn like the important thing is HRA calculation and how is the exemptions been taken, because in every organization during the start of financial year we give the details that these are the things which will be opting, but at the end of financial year the declaration which we've done in April, at the end of financial year we need to submit the proof. So that time how the exemptions been calculated. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Okay. So today what we'll learn, like PTC, gross, net salary. I guess someone has skipped because I just got text that no one is able to listen me. Can you guys hear me right now?
can hear you, but your audio is very low.
Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yeah, it's clear now.
Okay. Great. So these are the topics which we'll cover today. So this session is actually related to this the components which are in the salary slips and how we will calculate those components, and the deductions which happen. Like on a monthly basis we see there is some deduction column and deductions are happening, but as an HR I used to get a lot more queries like why this deduction, what is the requirement for this deduction, and how you will calculate that the company is deducting this amount, but how we know that the calculation is done by the calculation done by the organization is fully correct, there is no loopholes and all. So these all things we'll also learn. Plus we'll also learn like the tax declarations which we do in the month of April every year at the start of financial year. So the part of HRA is very crucial. Like most of us these days, like we travel to a lot more places, like we are not in our hometown, and because of job we need to move to another cities. So definitely we need to because of this relocation we need to stay in a rented place. So definitely we provide the slips, the rent slips. Now the slips which we provide them, what is the exemption, the maximum exemptions we can get? Because suppose someone is getting 30,000 HRA in his or her salary slip, but is that 30,000 is claimable or some calculation is there? So this one is also will get to learn. And last we'll keep 15 minutes time where we'll take the questions. So in this session we'll not go into TDS part fully, because TDS itself is a vast area. So we'll touch some parts, but for TDS we'll also create some another webinar later on. So let's start. So CTC, what is CTC? CTC is a like cost to company. Whenever a company hires someone, the negotiation happens on CTC only. Where CTC, it's like total cost which the company is bearing for that employee or the new hire, right? So what all things are inside the CTC? So CTC will include all the earnings in the sense, here the components will be like basic salary, then HRA, then other components, any benefits which as a part of allowance it's getting, special allowance. So we'll learn in later slides. So CTC, how the CTC gets calculated. So CTC, as I mentioned here, CTC is calculated by gross salary plus the employer contribution. Okay, so now what is gross salary? We'll discuss at the end of this slide. Now, plus it's mentioned employer contribution. So employer contribution is like in the CTC part, there is a employee plus employer contribution. So employer contribution, what are the contribution I have mentioned is PF and ESIC. EPF is employer provident fund and ESI is employee state insurance. So these are the, I guess most of you are aware about the EPF and ESIC. So EPF is the benefit which everyone gets based on some salary part, and ESIC is also based on some salary part which is actually related to the employee's insurance, medical conditions. So this terms to ESIC. Now the CTC, if we need to calculate, we need to calculate via gross salary plus the employer who is giving the contribution. Okay, so we learned CTC. Now we'll move to what is gross salary. Now gross salary comes like if we know the CTC amount and we can deduct the employer contribution, then we get the gross salary. Okay, so every organization gives me this CTC and gross. CTC is the total, gross is the amount which you are earning deducted by the contribution which the employer is bearing on me. Okay, so the contribution is again PF and ESIC, same contribution. The third and the final most important thing, which is the net salary, which actually the employee receives after all the deduction. So net salary, or we can simple terms we can say it as a enhanced salary. Okay, so now here the important thing is the net salary will be whatever is your gross salary will be deducted by the employee contribution. So as I mentioned earlier, our CTC is a combination of both employee contribution and the employer contribution. Okay, so employer is giving contribution of PF and ESIC. There are some percentages there which we'll discuss later. So that is the employer contribution, and employee also, as a government norms and all the deductions mentioned. So employer also needs to contribute few things for PF, ESIC. It's basically ESIC. Then PT, which is professional tax. Then LWF, which is labor welfare fund, and TDS if applicable based on the salary. So after all these deductions from the employee's gross salary, the employees receives the net salary. Okay, so these are the calculations for CTC, gross, and net salary. And all these three is linked to employee earnings. As you can see at the above, CTC or gross or net salary is equals to employee earnings, because whatever employee is earning, it's a combination of both contributions, and which is a part of CTC. Okay, then we'll move on to the next, the salary slip. I've just randomly got one salary slip. So here if you see, let's study this salary slip. Okay, here if you see the best, there are the earnings. Under earnings is mentioned basic, HRA, children education, special allowance, and conveyance. Okay, so the earnings, these are called the components, also components of the salary slips. So these are earnings and the components as well. Now these 5 things which is mentioned under earning, it's not limited to this 5 components only. There could be lot more components, like your dress allowance, then mobile allowance, like this kind of, any kind of allowance could be there, which is a combination of this total components. Now if you see the basic, it's mentioned 35,000, HRA is mentioned 17,500. Children's allowance is something, and everything is mentioned here. And from that amount column, from your left hand side, if you see at the bottom, you can see 62,784 is the total calculated amount. Now, this is what we say 62,784. This is the monthly CTC. Okay, this is the CTC amount. It's mentioned. So, what we learned, all the components, addition of all the components plus the employer contribution is equals to the CTC. Okay, so this 62,784 is the CTC. Now, if we deduct, if we now on the right hand side, you can see there are deductions mentioned: PF, TDS, and LWF. Okay, this deductions happened at the end of the columns. You can check, like at the end where the amount is mentioned. 1,800 for PF, TDS is the amount which is mentioned based on the calculation. LWF is mentioned 25 rupees. Okay, so this is the contribution. This is the contribution been given by the employee. Employee has given this contribution. Okay, so this amount will be deducted from this CTC amount, and the employer contribution, which never gets mentioned on the salary slip, which is actually part of CTC. Okay, so this is a very tricky thing. Like whenever the salary slips get generated, you won't find employer contribution will be mentioned under deduction in any of the salary slips. The deductions which will be mentioned is the employee part, which the employee is giving, contributing. So this deductions will be mentioned. The deductions which are mentioned in the salary slip is the employee contribution. Okay, so now if we deduct this deductions from the amount, this CTC amount, then it will be the net pay. Net pay amount will this, deducting the employer contribution. Okay, so this is a gist about the salary slip which we have learned. Now, like let's move to the next part, which is salary component, any threshold limit. Now, as we learned that how CTC gross and net we can calculate, now we have to also understand, is there any limit been fixed? Is there any limitations or any actual threshold limit is mentioned that this amount needs to be mentioned or not? Any other things which is a part of component of the salary slip or not? This also will learn now. Here, what is, okay, now what you see here, first is basic salary. Okay, basic salary minimum is 15,000. Okay, so what is this 15,000? As per the government calculation and the regulations, they have decided like anyone who will be joining the organization or any organization, his or her basic salary needs to be 15,000 minimum. If you see previously, like 1 year down the line, or maybe like 6 months down the line, if you have seen, like people's salary slip would be having their basic salary as 12,000, 13,000. This I'm saying, if their CTC is less, like 3 lakhs or 4 lakhs CTC. So if their CTC is 3 or 4 lakhs, so then we can see their basic salary is mentioned as 12,000, 12,500, like this kind of. So what government has mentioned, no, this kind of things will not be followed. So anyone whose annual CTC is less than or equal to 5 lakhs, again I'll repeat, if any employee is drawing or after negotiation, his or her annual CTC is become 5 lakhs or less than equals to 5 lakhs, then his or her basic salary needs to be 15,000. This is mandatory. If any organization is giving a basic salary of less than 15,000, then you can definitely discuss with their management. Okay, this is for clear. Now, if anyone is having more than 5 lakhs of CTC, then it will automatically will become more than 15,000. So that is not required. But if we calculate basis on the calculation, people whose salary less than 5 lakhs, they used to get their basic salary less. Why this change has been done? This updation is done to keep in mind, because all the components in the salary slips are based on the basic salary only. Most of the components are like calculated on basic salary. So if your HRA, if you see, it's also a part of basic. Like without basic you can't calculate your HRA, without basic you can't calculate in other components. So it's totally, fully and totally related to basic salary. The more the basic salary, the more good component structure will be in your salary slip. Okay. Next is HRA. Next is HRA, which is house rent allowance. Again, so this HRA I have mentioned is 40% and 50% basis on the cities. Now, what is 40% and 50%? So this 40% and 50% is of the basic salary. Okay, if the person or the employee is from any A or B based cities, so then like Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, this kind of cities, so their HRA should be 50%. Okay, and other than this A category cities, it could be 40%. But again, it's totally depend on the organization, like whether they want to give you 40%, 50%, it's totally depends. Okay, third will also come to reimbursements. Reimbursement is what, like many organization, if you have seen, like in the most Fortune 500 companies and other big companies, MNCs, they have a structure called reimbursement, employee reimbursements. So what all things are covered in reimbursements? So in reimbursements, like your telephone bill reimbursement, your data card reimbursement, any conveyance allowance, like if you have traveled somewhere because of the business purpose and you need to claim that, so you can claim all those things under reimbursement category. But as I mentioned, it's a part of the earnings. Yes, part of the earnings. It's not directly related to, but yes, when you reimburse this amount with your salary, so it will be mentioned under earnings part only. Under earning part only as a reimbursement. Suppose your reimbursement amount is 10,000. So that 10,000 amount will be mentioned under your earning section. And if your salary is under taxable bracket, then definitely tax will also be imposed on your reimbursement earnings as well. Okay. Then we'll move to bonus. Bonus, as we know, most of us know that during our like we have seen our parents are getting bonus during Diwali time, during Durga Puja time, any other occasional times. So we have seen they're getting a good amount of lump sum amount of bonus. But do we know, is it actually the company is giving that amount, or it's a part of our savings only? So here the bonus part is we are only contributing. It's a some amount of from our salary, some part of our salary is like it's the minimum bonus amount is 8.33 and the maximum could be 20%. Okay, and it's also calculated on the basic salary. So what happens like when the organizations share the offer letter with you, there you can see in the salary annexure, you can see bonus on a monthly basis or on a annual basis, you can see the bonus. So now that amount is actually a part of your CTC. Okay, which is mentioned, which will be mentioned in your salary slip. Now again the question may arise, like okay, you said that 8.33% is the bonus amount of my basic salary, but suppose 8.33 of my basic salary is 30,000. But you are saying it's a part of your CTC, but I have received 40,000 as a bonus. Yes. So how could it be? So my answer will be yes. If you have received 40,000, but the minimum bonus calculation is from your CTC part is 30,000. So this is totally correct. 30,000 is a part of your salary, but the extra 10,000 which you have received, it's called profit sharing. What is profit sharing? Profit sharing is the amount if in that financial year the company has earned a huge
Others,
profit or some profit, then the
પેલામાં
company
others બતાવતા હતા.
allocates.
મેં તમને લિંક મોકલી હતી ને.
I guess someone hasn't unmuted her like.
Yeah, it's making disturbance. Could you please request her?
Can you please mute your mic? Hello. Okay. Great. Okay. So now what we were discussing, like suppose your bonus comes as 30,000 and you have received 40,000. So yes, that 30,000 is a part of your CTC only, but that 10,000 which you have received is the amount which company has shared with you, because in that financial year the company has gained profit. So that is called the profit sharing. That is why you have received 40,000 and people becomes happy. So that is the actual calculation or the actual scenario for bonus. Bonus is actually a part of our CTC, but the apart from the threshold limit, if you receive some amount, that is called the profit sharing. It's not the amount or the other calculation. And yes, the bonus amount which could be, the minimum bonus is 8.33% of your basic salary, and the maximum bonus could be up to 20% of your basic salary, which as a profit sharing you can gain from your organization. Okay, so now we'll move to the next part. Here we'll learn like what are the deductions, type of deductions, as we seen in that salary slip, that there are three deductions mentioned, but what all deductions comes under a salary slip. Okay, so here the deductions, five deductions. First is EPF, which is employee provident fund. And if you see here, I have mentioned employee plus employer, means this contribution is from both of the side, employee side and the employer side. And this calculation is done on your basic salary. Now you will ask me like you tell me how will I calculate this. I don't know, like how will I calculate my PF. So for PF, uh, there is a two segment. There are two segments. First is the minimum contribution. Second is the contribution which is for everyone. So it's under decision from the organization only. If the organization decides to pay you a minimum contribution, then the minimum contribution could be 1800. Earlier it was 700, but after upgradation from the government side, it's been mentioned as 1800 from both sides. Means employee will also contribute 1800 and the employer will also contribute 1800. So that means 3600 will be deducted from your monthly CTC amount. Okay, and this like if this is the monthly contribution, then only it's 3600, 1800 plus 1800. Apart from this, if the organization decides no, will not go ahead with the minimum contribution, but will go ahead with the actual calculation which we were following from last. So the actual calculation is 12% of your basic salary. Now, suppose your basic salary is 30,000, then your calculation will be 12% multiplied by 30,000. The amount which will you receive, that amount both the employee and the employer will contribute equally. Now we'll move to ESI. ESI is, and one more thing, sorry. Hello, anyone is saying something? Okay, cool. Okay, so for one more thing under employee provident fund is who all are eligible for getting this employees provident fund benefit. So the employees whose basic salary is less than or equal to 15,000, all of them will be eligible for this. Okay, and why I'm saying less than or equals to 15,000? So this is the actual threshold limit decided by the government. So if your basic salary is less than or equals to 15,000, you will definitely be coming under this EPF contribution. Now, at the starting of your career, if your salary is quite high, suppose like student from IIM or student from IIT or from other segments as well, if they manage to get a good salary at the start of their career, suppose 10 lakhs or 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs, like this, so that time definitely their basic salary will be more than 15,000, maybe 40,000, 50,000 could be their basic salary. So now the question arises, you have mentioned 15,000 is the threshold salary, then their basic salary is more than 15,000, like 40, 50,000. Now will they be eligible? So here the answer will be, if the person decides, yeah, I want to go ahead with this EPF, then only they can contribute. Otherwise, it's a mutual discussion with the management that yes, I want to contribute or I do not want to contribute. But generally, in India, what happens whenever a person joins the organization, by default, whether their salary is more than 15,000 or something basic salary, or less than, their PF gets connected, because most of us have already started our career with a low salary and we already have our PF account.
Sir, I have
The
a
third
question.
scenario is, suppose I have started my career and with a less salary, and that time my PF account get created. Now, when I reached to a higher salary, like I joined with a CTC of 3 lakhs, and after 2 3 years, I got a good hike, or I got a performance appraisal, everything, and I got a CTC of 10 lakhs. That time, definitely my basic salary will increase a lot. That time, if I say no, I do not want to contribute my PF, that time it's not possible, because if any employee has their existing PF account, then at the later stage also, if their salary is more, basic salary is more than 15,000, then also by default they will have to contribute to their PF account. Okay. Now we'll move to ESIC. ESIC is the actual term, Employee State Insurance Corporation, but generally we say it ESI, Employee State Insurance. So it generally deals with the insurance sector, like from the government side, the benefits they get, the employee gets. So it is also a contribution from both the employee and the employer side. Now, this is calculated on the gross salary of your CTC, I mean salary. So what is the threshold limit of your ESIC? The threshold limit is, if your gross salary is less than or equals to 21,000, then ESIC will be applicable under you. Okay, suppose you have joined the organization where your gross salary was 22,000, sorry, 18,000, then you are eligible for this ESIC. And for a year, for a year and two, there was a ESIC deductions happened under your salary. Now after 2 years, your salary has become, I mean the gross salary has become 25,000. Now will you be eligible for this ESIC? Will there be any deduction for this ESIC? So the answer will be no. When you reach this threshold limit, beyond this threshold limit, suppose your gross salary has become 25,000, then there will be no deduction for ESIC. And if any deduction is happening even after gross salary is over, like beyond 21,000, then you should talk to your management, definitely. And what will be the percentage under ESIC? So as per the recent update, the employee should contribute 0.75% from his or her gross salary, and the employer will contribute 3.25% from the gross salary of the employee. Okay. Now we'll move to the third point, which is the LWF. LWF is actually a labor welfare fund. It is this fund is created by the state governments. It is applicable to most of the state governments, and the amount which has been fixed, mentioned as a fixed, that state government has decided that there is a some amount which will be fixed, and those amount needs to be deducted from the employee salary, and separately employer will also have to like contribute some amount. So what is the amount decided by the state governments? So LWF, this will also be a deduction part. Employee will contribute 25 rupees from his or her monthly salary, and separately this amount separately employer will also have to give double the amount of the employee. So if employee is giving 25 rupees, 50 rupees the employer needs to give it to the state government. Now this 50 rupees, will it be deductible from your salary? The answer will be no, strictly no. So this 50 rupees the employer need to bear. It will not be deducted from the employee's salary. Okay. And if you ask me what is the requirement of this LWF, and why it's required, 25 rupees is not a big
Repeat it.
deal. Hello.
I mean, can you just repeat it? What you said? Just employee don't have to bear this amount.
Yeah. So the employee contribution will be 25 rupees,
Okay.
and the employer needs to pay 50 rupees. Okay, this employer which will be providing 50 rupees, that won't be deducted from the employee's salary.
Okay.
That the employer needs to contribute from employer side, not from the employee's salary.
Okay, fine.
Okay. And LWF, because it's a labor welfare fund, and this fund actually helps the laborers for their betterment and all. So that is why state government has released this fund, and we are contributing. Next is PT. PT is professional tax. Professional tax, why? Because it's also a part of the state governments. In whichever state we are working, the state governments has decided some criteria and the thresholds. So after this session, I'll be sharing you like details where we'll get for which state how much professional tax needs to be deducted. If there is a more deduction is happening under your salary, so you can definitely discuss with your management. So, and one more thing, if anyone is from North India and in their salary professional tax is getting deducted, suppose rupees 180 rupees or 200 rupees, so you need to discuss with your management, because except North India, other parts of India there should be a deduction, but in North India there shouldn't be any professional tax deduction, like Delhi, Punjab, like this. So anyone from North India, there shouldn't be any professional tax deduction from your salary. And the last and the final, which is the important one, is TDS, tax deducted at source, which is the income tax. It's if applicable in your salary bracket, then there will be a deduction. So as I mentioned, TDS won't be we won't be discussing because it's a huge part. Next webinar will be our based on TDS and other components. So there we'll discuss in details. So these are the some deductions you must check, and I'll also share some important notes which you can follow like after this webinar. You'll get as a mail only. So moving to next is deduction calculations. We right now we have learned what all deductions are there. So now we'll see how we will calculate. As I mentioned, PF. So EPF is minimum 1800, and the general would be 12% of your basic salary. Now, do you have a choice that I want to contribute 1800 only, or maybe I want to go ahead with 12% of basic, or no, I want to contribute more. I want to contribute 20% or 30%. So, are you eligible for all this? So the answer will be yes. You can choose whether you want to go ahead with minimum contribution 12% of basic or more than 12%. That you have to mention when you before you're joining, like when there is a discussion with the management for salary. That time you have to mention. But generally what happens here in India, most of the organizations what follow, but because during interview sessions and during salary discussions, we as a employee or as a job seeker, we do not actually get into this. Okay, whatever it's coming in, it's fine. But this is just for a normally education and discussion purpose only. It's up to you. Whatever you want to decide, you can discuss with the management, and then if there is a negotiations, that will be that will depend under management and with you. So these are the calculation, and all these calculations are done on basic except your minimum contribution. Next week come it's ESI. As I mentioned, it's
So I have a question.
calculated.
Hello.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this minimum 1800 is fixed for the employees who are getting more than 15,000. Is it so?
Yeah, it's for everyone. Suppose as I mentioned, like whenever an employee joined any organization with a less CTC, that time his or her PF account got opened. Now when he went on a higher salary, that time by default there will be a deduction. So the deduction should be minimum 1800 would be definitely, if you have a PF account, 1800 definitely the employee and the employer needs to contribute.
But as far I know, if someone is getting like 7,000 rupees as a salary, and
Yeah.
in that, if we deduct the PF
Hmm.
amount will be like around 800 something. So he or she won't be bounded to give minimum 1800, right?
No. So yeah, the amount which you mentioned, it is not 800, it's the 700. It was earlier, it was 700. So
No, no.
now
My
from
question is
this
that
year.
if I am getting 7,000 and in
Okay.
that PF has been deducted,
Hmm.
then the amount PF amount will be like 960. Correct?
Hmm. Yeah. No.
Then I'm
So
asking you, like
yeah.
1800 is fixed for me to give the minimum amount, or this 1800 is just for those people who are getting 15,000
No,
or plus 15,000?
it's for everyone. It's for everyone. The minimum amount is 1800. Why? Because 7,000. I suppose 7,000. You're speaking about basic salary, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So basic salary can't be 7,000, which was earlier. Basic salary needs to be 15,000, and 1800 is the minimum amount needs to contribute it. So this, if you search also the legal,
Yeah, that's what
uh,
my question
yeah,
was. Like for
yeah,
15,000 or 15,000 plus, if a person is getting, then only this
yeah.
1800 will be the minimum deduction amount.
No. So if you're getting 15,000 or more than 15,000 basic salary, and if your employer is deciding to give the minimum contribution, then 1800 will be applicable for everyone. For everyone, whether you are getting 15 or more than 15.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. So okay. So
Yes.
shall we move?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So Yes, I see. Again, here the calculation is, as I mentioned, based on the gross salary. So if your gross salary is less than or equals to 21,000, then your employee and employer contribution will be, employee will be 0.75% and employer will be 3.25%. So it will be on your gross salary. Now the next is LWF, as I mentioned. LWF is 25 rupees from the employee side, and from employer side will be 50%. But this 50 rupees. So this amount 50 rupees from the employer side, that won't be a part of your CTC. That is the separate, and this needs to be from the employer side only. Okay. If any deduction is happening more than 25 rupees in your salary slip, then definitely you can connect with your management. Okay.
Okay.
Next is P. Yeah. Okay. Next is professional tax. So it's on a monthly basis only, as per the slab I have mentioned. So I'll share the slabs with you, with all of you. And TDS obviously is there. If employee CTC is coming under TDS deduction, then there will be a TDS deductions as well. And all the like percentage, all the amount which is mentioned here, it's the current update from the government side. Earlier it was different, so this is the updated amount. Earlier for LWF it was employee was 10 rupees and employer was 20 rupees. So now it's 25 and 50. So like this. So everything is updated. Now, as we understood, how will we calculate the deductions? Here, the main important thing, HRA calculation. Okay, so HRA calculation, why it's required? Because as we seen earlier in our HRA section, the last salary slip which you have reviewed, there we seen the HRA that person is getting 17,500 as HRA. Okay, now why this is required to discuss, as it's a part of TDS only, but again we are discussing here because we are discussing about the salary earning part. This year we have started this financial year, 2020 and 2021. This is the financial year, and in April month, most of us have declared our tax, means whose CTC is coming under taxable income. So they need to declare some tax declarations. In that declaration, the employee needs to declare how much amount will he be saving, for what purpose and everything. And also there they can mention the HRA, means the house rent, which currently they are into right now. At the end of the year, like in December, every organization ask their employees, please share all the proofs of the tax you have declared. Suppose you have declared some amount of tax, and those proofs needs to be deposited to the finance department of your organization in the month of December. And basis on the calculation proofs, January, February, and March, the tax amount gets deducted. Now, HRA, for HRA, if the person has declared that I am paying 30,000 rent every month, so that person needs to share that bill, 30,000 of bill from his or her landlord or like this. So now the finance department has got 30,000 rent slips for 12 months from that employee. Now, how the exemptions will come? Now, this exemptions means it's a term under TDS. Exemption means जो जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं कि छूट मिलता है हम लोगों को. So HRA, if you have claimed, now it comes, how will we calculate this HRA exemption? Because I am getting HRA of 50,000, but I am paying suppose 30,000 on a monthly basis to my landlord. So how will we calculate that how much amount I will get as an exemption from tax? So my first thing will be actual HRA I have declared or I have submitted the proof. Okay. Second one will be 40 or 50% of your basic salary. 40 or 50% means if you're in a tier 1 or tier 2 cities, someone, I guess, hello, can you please mute your mic? Yeah, yeah, thanks. Hello. I guess someone has unmuted his or her mic.
Hello, sir. You can directly mute him. Hello,
Hello.
sir. You can directly mute him.
Okay, just wait.
Avik, please continue now.
Hello, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, loud and
Okay.
clear.
Yes, sir, we can
I
hear.
guess I guess there was a network issue. Okay. Okay. So first point was the actual HRA, which we have declared or submitted as a proof. Second one will be 50 or 40% of your basic salary, which means based on the cities which you are staying. So if we discuss this about the cities, like for Delhi, it will be 50%. For Gurgaon, it will be 40%. So like this kind of scenarios. And third point will be the rent which the employee has paid will be deducted by the 10% of your basic salary. So the amount which you'll be getting. So all these three amounts will be checked. The actual HRA you have declared 40 or 50% of your basic salary, and 10% of your basic deducted by the rent paid. The amount or all the three amounts which you'll get from there, what will we choose? From there, the actual exemption would be least of three. Suppose you have for the first point, suppose it's 50,000. For the second point, it's suppose 30,000, and for the third point, suppose it's 25,000. So the exemption which will you get from your HRA from TDS deduction will be 25,000. The least of three. All these three calculation, the least one will be taken as the exemption. So there will be no tax deduction for that exempted amount. For the rest amount, there will be reduction. Okay. So Now we'll move on to the next, which is
Sir, can you
there is
just explain the third point? Rent
okay.
paid. Can you give the example of that?
Okay. So suppose rent paid. Suppose you have paid a rent of 30,000. Okay. So okay, let me give you an example of like this. Wait. Let me just show you. Okay. So this is a sheet. Everyone can see this sheet.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here, if you see, this is the components I have mentioned, and this 15,000 and all. This is the normal amount I have taken. Okay. Now, uh, here in this 13th row, if you see, I have mentioned 30,000, or maybe you can take it as 40,000. 40,000 is the rent I'm paying, and this 40,000 rent I'm paying from April to March, right? Means from April of this year to March of next year. Every month I'm paying 40,000. So at the end of the year, after 12 months, I have paid this much amount to my landlord. Okay. Okay. 4,80,000 I have paid to my landlord. Now, the third option which you are asking, it's rent paid less your basic salary, 10% of basic salary. So my basic salary is 15,000, and this after less of this 40,000 minus 10% of your basic, this amount is the amount which comes for every month. So now if you see calculate for 12 months, then the amount comes as this 4,62,000 I'm getting for this rent paid minus 10%.
So this will be
And
considered for the exemption, like 462,000?
exemptions.
Okay.
No. So this three amounts. Okay, this is the actual rent. This is the rent paid of 10% of basic, and this is for the metro cities. After calculation, we can see this is the less amount. So the less amount, least of three, if we see, least of three is this. Okay,
90,000.
so
Yeah.
so 90,000 will be the exemption amount. There will be no deduction. Okay, so this is the exemption means this.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so any queries you want to discuss? Anyone, if you have any queries, you can directly ask. Hello.
Yeah, no, sir. No more questions.
Okay, so this is done for today, and the next webinar also will be doing a basis on the PF, maybe TDS. So this will update in our Facebook page. You can directly connect with us through the pages, and every webinar will be getting some files like this webinar we have done. So you'll be getting some files related to this, and I have also prepared one file. Let me just show you. Um I have just prepared this file for everyone, where you can check like the amount which you are receiving. Suppose someone is having a CTC of 10 lakhs. Okay, this is a CTC. So whenever you input this one, you can see like how much CTC for which component you are getting. And also, as I mentioned, like if someone's CTC is less than 5 lakhs, suppose if I take 4 lakhs, so here you can see automatically his or her basic should be 15,000. His or her basic should be 15,000. So it's coming here. So there are a few files you'll be getting like this. And for detailed understanding, or for tax, for calculations, or any other related to HR components or HR thing, you can directly connect with us. And yeah, definitely. Hope you like the session, and will request everyone to visit our Facebook page, our LinkedIn page, and give us the feedback, because your feedback will be definitely fruitful for us. Will able to modify, will able to like give our more inputs to make this beneficial for everyone. Okay.
Okay, so one
Okay.
question is there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please.
It's related to PF and ESIC basically.
Yeah,
There is a upper limit in both. Like PF, there is a upper limit of like 15,000,
yeah.
and in ESIC there is upper limit of 21,000. Is there any lower limit to be eligible for both PF and ESIC?
Lower limit in the sense, like
Like lower limit of salary?
lower limit of salary is not. I guess you were discussing about that 7%. Sorry, 7,000 amount which was fixed earlier. Like
Yeah, like
if someone is getting
6,500.
10,000.
Yeah, I have heard that 6,500 if someone is getting, then that person is
Hmm.
eligible for the PF and ESIC. So I just want
Yeah,
little light on that.
yeah. You can get that, and that is the minimum bracket. That is the minimum bracket is 7,000. 7,000 is the minimum bracket for calculation of all this PF, and
Okay.
the maximum is 15,000, up to 15,000.
Okay, if someone is getting like 6,000, that person is not eligible for PF deduction.
Sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Tell me.
if someone is getting like 6,000, then that
Yeah.
person is not eligible for PF deduction or PF contribution.
No. That person will also be getting.
But you said there is a bracket of 7,000 to
7,000 is
15,000.
the 7,000 is the minimum amount, but this generally not happen. This generally not happen because this was earlier. It was mentioned that if someone is having less basic salary, because earlier this bracket was not mentioned that the people should be having 15,000 and all, right? So now when the government has decided this 15,000, so there is no requirement because everyone in the organization is having this basic salary of 15,000, no less than 15,000. But earlier what was happening? Earlier people are getting less basic salary, and because of that, that bracket was mentioned that 7,000 is the minimum bracket which needs to be maintained by all the organizations. Yes.
Okay, so at current scenario, we are just taking everyone beyond less than 15,000. Everyone has to be give the PF contribution as well as ESIC contribution.
So ESIC, the maximum is
Maximum is
21,000.
21,000. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Okay, there is no minimum bracket for any of these.
No, because this won't be applicable right now because everyone needs to have their basic salary 15,000. If any organization is giving you a basic salary of less than 15,000, you can definitely discuss with the management that this is not the because this has changed, and as per the government norms, you have to make the basic salary as 15,000 minimum.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, fine, sir.
Right? So we'll also come with this detailed webinars on PF, ESIC, and other. So keep following us, and we'll
Hello,
definitely. Yeah. Hello.
hello, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, like you said that the basics will be 15,000, right? This
Yeah.
means like we have giving as a 12,000, 13,000. So can you brief me on about that one? Because in south side they're giving us a 15, means not 15, is a 12,000, as a
Mhm.
13,000 as a basic. The package will be around 3 lakhs, below 3 lakhs.
Okay. 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 So in India, the government of India in last year in the month of July or August, I am not recalling the exact month. During July or August, they have given this confirmation that why 15,000. Hello.
Yeah, tell me, I can listen.
So yeah. So government of India has decided that instead of making it's a minimum of 7,000 as the last participant has mentioned, she mentioned it correctly. So earlier it was minimum. So to avoid all this kind of consequences which the organization is currently doing, I don't know, because here in north and east I have seen, from some parts of west also I have seen, so they have already changed and updated. Maybe they
Okay.
in south also they will update, for sure.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you can discuss with them that no, as per the government of India, 15,000
Okay.
is the threshold limit, or the minimum limit government has mentioned you have to follow as a basic salary. Either
This is
either
okay.
the
Fine.
employee, yeah, tell me.
Like you said that, yeah, you said that the 15,000 for the what means what package will be there? Means if you have 3 lakh package, or is there more than 3 lakh package? Suppose the package
No,
will be
no.
around less than 3 lakhs. Suppose take as a 2
Yeah.
lakhs 50,000 or 2 lakhs 10,000. The
Okay.
package will be there. So then what will the basic for that? Means according to the, because most of
Okay.
the south companies, what they do according to company norms, like a 10
Okay.
like a 40% or 50% of the basic they
Okay.
choose in that
You just
manner.
check this, check the screen. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So 3 lakhs would be fine.
Yeah, no, put as a 3 lakh, 2 lakhs 50,000.
2,50,000. Okay. So this is the
Hmm.
CTC. If you have 2,50,000 CTC also, this can't
Okay.
be less than 15,000. Yes, the
Okay.
employer needs to decide how they will maintain this, because if you see under this special allowance, there is a bracket of 6611. This bracket
Okay.
means it's a negative. Okay, but
Okay.
in the special allowance or in any salary slip, there can't be any negative amount. So
Okay.
to avoid this negative amount, they will have to maintain. Their HR needs to decide how will we
Okay.
remove this negative amount and make it
Okay.
zero, and so that it won't impact the basic salary and other components, because you
Okay.
you can't touch the basic salary below 15,000. You can manage for other components. You can mention the HRA, then travel allowance, other things. You can deduct less and make your basic salary as 15,000. So I'll
Okay.
share this format with you all, so you can
Okay.
check. Okay.
Okay. Means you're saying that 15,000 is a basic one. Whatever the package will be there.
Yes, whatever would be the package, 15,000 should be the basic salary. Suppose your CTC is 2 lakhs, because currently 2 lakhs there is no CTC. Well,
Okay.
only there will be few organizations will be providing this 2 lakhs. But if someone is getting 2 lakh CTC also, so then also the company needs to decide how to maintain the compliances. So all this comes under compliances, and you all can keep learning about this compliances part as well, in compliances sessions as well here. So here you can learn all those things.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. So any other queries?
No, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, sir.
No, thank you, sir.
Okay. So I have all your mail IDs. So I'll be mailing you all these details. Hope you
Okay,
all
sir.
like the session, and I'll request
Sure.
everyone to please visit our Facebook page and LinkedIn page and give your feedback, because your feedback is everything for us. Whatever we'll be
Okay,
doing,
thanks.
it
Okay, thanks.
it will motivate us. Okay.
Yeah,
Surely,
sure,
sir.
sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.